My dad, was getting out of his bed at night, tripped, fell, broke his pelvis, ended up in the hospital. And a lot of times what happens next is you develop a pneumonia, and then it's a slow glide to the end of your life, and which happened with him.
Diet and sleep and, all of the things, the kind of the lifestyle pillars of longevity and optimal health. If you have to choose one of them, it would be exercise.
If you're over 60, if you exercise, at least once a week, you reduce your chance of cancer threefold, and you reduce your chance of all-cause mortality by 50%.
Most important, just move. Move every day. If it means just getting up and walking, that's better than nothing. In fact, the research shows that the biggest benefit of exercise happens for those that have nothing to doing something.
Let's dive into one more topic in this segment of our series here, which is exercise. Because I think if I were going to say that if there was one thing you could do that has the biggest impact on longevity, if you could bottle up and sell it, it would be a $1 trillion blockbuster drug. It is exercise.
Yes.
Yeah.
No question.
My God, so important. And yet people, let's talk. Let's dive into exercise.
I was just going to really confirm that. Really, if people ask what if you had to choose between diet and sleep and all of the things, the kind of the lifestyle pillars of longevity and optimal health, if you have to choose one of them, it would be exercise. I think that by and far doesn't mean go and eat at McDonald's every day and then exercise, but it's so critical. It's in the evidence, I think, is overwhelming. There's really no question. Yes, there's controversy on what the perfect diet is. Yes, there's controversy, but I don't think there's any controversy on the benefits of exercise. And so, definitely different types of exercise. You want to get cardiorespiratory fitness. You want to get muscle mass and building. So strength training are really important. And, muscles are, like we talked about at the beginning, so critical for overall longevity, and they predict mortality. And exercise also keeps those little mitochondria, the power plants of your cell, healthy, which is fundamental for longevity.
Yeah, the number I remember recently, I was with the team from Tonal, which is one of the products I use to get my daily exercise in. And the CEO was sharing some stats that I found impressive. If you're over 60 and you're listening to this podcast, if you exercise, at least once a week, right, twice preferably, you reduce your chance of cancer threefold, and you reduce your chance of all-cause mortality by 50%. I mean, it's a huge, huge difference. So that's pretty amazing.
It is amazing. And I think a lot of that benefit comes from the muscle mass. And I think muscle mass, a lot of the benefit of having the muscle mass is because muscle contains a lot of mitochondria. So every cell in our body contains mitochondria, right? The power plants. But muscle, brain, the tissues in our body that need the most energy are the brain, the muscles, and they are the ones that contain the most mitochondria.
Wouldn't it be great if you could make more brain? Just make more brain connections, but not more brain cells. The other thing that muscle contains a lot of is stem cells.
Yeah.
Which are important.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's talk about what we wrote in Longevity Practical Playbook is a focus on overall muscle mass, and then also VO2 max and your cardiovascular side. So let's dive into muscle mass. So I'm on a mission to add 10 pounds in this calendar year, and I've gotten about +6, and I'm pushing hard to get there by A360 next year. And I don't think there's any substitution for building muscle mass other than really working out. I mean, I wish there was a pill. Maybe someday there will be a pill. I've made a few investments in startups that are again sarcopenia. Is the term for muscle loss as you age. You lose muscle mass over time. We've just announced an XPRIZE. One of the parameters that teams are working on is reversing your muscle loss by as much as 20 years. But it comes down to actually doing the work.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can supplement that. You can make it easier for yourself. But let's talk about what it takes.
Yeah, you can. There's some really innovative biotech startups now, as you know, Peter, that are, I think, from stem cell secretions to, the really amazing work being done that is shown to increase muscle mass. Now, even in those cases, it's still important to use your muscles to stimulate them. Right. So no matter what, you have to move. If you sit in a bed rest, or sitting on a couch, you're going to lose muscle mass very quickly. So most important, just move. No matter what you do, move every day. If it means just getting up and walking, that's better than nothing. In fact, the research shows that the biggest benefit of exercise happens for those that have nothing to doing something. Right. So
from 0 to
just
1.
getting
Yeah.
0 to 1, just getting up off the couch, you're going to get huge benefit. Then, obviously you get more benefit incrementally more as you work harder, but doing weight training, I think, is really important. We can talk about how we really build mitochondria and make them more efficient by doing zone 2 training. So the way I like to think of how much to exercise, what you should do is think of your base, your foundation as that zone 2. Now, zone 2 is the rate of exercise. It's typically a fast walk for most people. It's where your heart rate is such that, when you're at rest, we mentioned that your mitochondria like to burn fat. As you start to work out and you demand more energy, right? So when you're burning fat, you're using oxygen to burn and make that energy. As you start to work out more and you have more demands for more energy on your body needs, your muscles need more energy, that more ATP, your mitochondria can't keep up. And so they're going to switch from oxygen and fat to burning glucose. Right? So something called glycolysis and carbohydrate. That point at which they switch from fat to glucose burning, sort of without oxygen, that's what makes lactate, right? We've all heard of lactic acid in our muscles when we work out too hard. So that lactate threshold, so to speak, when you start making lactate, switching, that's your zone 2. Now, Inigo San Millán has published some amazing research on this, and he's shown that that's what increases mitochondrial efficiency. So doing that for about 4 hours a week, that zone 2, it's really easy to do. Right? You can do it on your treadmill in front of your desk if you need to. And then on top of that, you want to do some weightlifting. So
let's talk. Let's continue on zone 2 1 second, because I'm staring here at a Techno Gym bike that I take my Zoom meetings on. I'm sitting on too many boards, and I have these boring board meetings. And so unless I'm presenting, I'm going to be on a bike doing something else. Or, during COVID, I took all of my meetings as walking meetings. I live in Santa Monica. I'm going to take advantage of the situation. And it's, but for me, you can calculate your zone 2 heart rate. You can get it. There's ways to do it, but your zone 2 heart rate for me, I'm just going to read this out loud here. So first of all, calculate your maximum heart rate. It's 220 minus your age. So for me, I'm 62, so my maximum heart rate is 158. And I think that's reasonably stands up to my experience of my maximum heart rate. So 220 minus your age. Then calculate your lower limit of zone 2, and which is your maximum heart rate times 60%. So that comes out to 100. And then calculate your upper limit, which is your maximum heart rate times 70%, which is 110. So I find 110 as that level where I'm, having a little bit difficulty talking on the bike, and so my Technogym bike has a heart rate monitor or I'll wear one and I'll get myself there and keep myself going. Now, what happens at zone 2 besides the switch from fat to glucose? Are we stimulating the growth of more mitochondria or making the ones we have more efficient?
Both, actually. So, what you're doing is you're sending a signal to the cell, to your body, to say, I can't keep up with the energy demand. Right. And so that's the purpose of exercise, the purpose of, we can get into the phytonutrients too. It basically, sometimes they're negative stimulators, meaning your body has to respond in order to meet the demands that you're making. Even with weight training, you're inducing small tears in your muscle, which actually, when your body repairs it, makes you stronger. Right. So exercise can be damaging. So what you're doing is you're stimulating your body to make more mitochondria, and you're stimulating them to be more efficient when you do that. So it's your body's just trying to meet the demands. Now, if you go too far, and now that's important too, to get to that VO2 max, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But you don't want to do the vast majority of your training at that level, that intense VO2, sort of that level of maximum consumption of oxygen. It's important to do that because the VO2 max does correlate with longevity. There's no question. But you do also cause a lot of those free radicals, a lot of oxidative damage. So you don't want to do that too often, but you want to get that foundation of just stimulating enough, but not too much to damage.
Everybody, I want to take a short break from our episode to talk about a company that's very important to me and could actually save your life or the life of someone that you love. The company is called Fountain Life. And it's a company I started years ago with Tony Robbins and a group of very talented physicians. Most of us don't actually know what's going on inside our body. We're all optimists. Until that day when you have a pain in your side, you go to the physician in the emergency room and they say, listen, I'm sorry to tell you this, but you have this stage 3 or 4 going on. And it didn't start that morning. It probably was a problem that's been going on for some time. But because we never look, we don't find out. So what we built at Fountain Life was the world's most advanced diagnostic centers. We have 4 across the US today, and we're building 20 around the world. These centers give you a full body MRI, a brain vasculature, an AI-enabled coronary CT looking for soft plaque, a DEXA scan, a GRAIL blood cancer test, a full executive blood workup. It's the most advanced workup you'll ever receive. 150 gigabytes of data that then go to our AIs and our physicians to find any disease at the very beginning when it's solvable. You're going to find out eventually. You might as well find out when you can take action. Fountain Life also has an entire side of the therapeutics. We look around the world for the most advanced therapeutics that can add 10, 20 healthy years to your life, and we provide them to you at our centers. So if this is of interest to you, please go and check it out. Go to fountainlife.com/Peter. When Tony and I wrote our New York Times bestseller, Life Force, we had 30,000 people who reached out to us for Fountain Life memberships. If you go to fountainlife.com/Peter, we'll put you to the top of the list. Really, it's something that is, for me, one of the most important things I offer my entire family, the CEOs of my companies, my friends. It's a chance to really add decades onto our healthy lifespans. Go to fountainlife.com/Peter. It's one of the most important things I can offer to you as one of my listeners. All right, let's go back to our episode. So you mentioned the amount of zone 2, not to be confused with VO2 max, zone 2 exercise, right? And for me, it's 110 beats per minute. How many hours and how much chunk at a time? So what's the minimum there you need to be hitting?
Yeah, you really want to strive for about 4 hours a week. You can divide it up into 4 1-hour sessions. You can do 30-minute sessions, 45, whatever works. It doesn't really matter that it's all in one go. But if you can get about 3, but ideally 4 hours a week is really what you want to strive for the zone 2.
Okay. And then there's one other layer which you've talked about, which is interval training.
Mm-hmm.
So what's that mean?
Yeah, the interval training or the HIIT training, that's when you push your heart rate really to its maximum or close to its maximum, 80% of its maximum. And that, again, that also stimulates cardiorespiratory fitness. That's really important. And we do know that VO2 max, when you work out at that level, you increase your ability to work out harder and faster at that level. You increase your VO2 max over time. So that again has been associated with longevity, right? People that have a higher, better VO2 max have a much lower risk of dying. There's no question about that.
One of the reasons, unfortunately, that people who've got sarcopenia, reduced muscle, pass, and it's a something, unfortunately, I suffered with, lost my dad, and many people have, which is as you get older and you've lost muscle mass, it becomes easier to trip and fall and break your hip or your pelvis. My dad, was getting out of his bed at night to go to the restroom, tripped, fell, broke his pelvis, ended up in the hospital. And a lot of times, what happens next is you develop a pneumonia, and then it's a slow glide to the end of your life, and which happened with him. And the numbers are staggering, for people who, after the age of 60, I think, end up breaking their hip or pelvis. There's a large percentage that don't make it back. And what you really want is have the strength to catch yourself, the strength to not trip and fall.
Absolutely. It's all far, far too common, right? People, they get sarcopenia or loss of muscle mass, which goes along with loss of bone mass, right? Osteopenia or osteoporosis. And when you do slip and fall, you end up breaking a bone. And again, that is the end for, kind of that long, slow decline for far, far too many people. And so, you definitely need the muscle mass. But also, it's important to work on kind of flexibility and remember that it's our nervous system that controls our muscles as well. And so, before you start working out, you really want to assess whether you have any dysfunctional movement patterns as well. So, if you're moving in a slightly, off pattern over time, if you're walking a lot or doing something, that can lead to injury. And once you get injured, it's really hard to keep up that exercise. So really, important to assess that, get a functional movement screen done. I think that's really important for most people. And then just get that neurological connection from your brain to your muscles in your body. A lot of us have lost that. As we're kids, when we learn to move, we start crawling, right? That crawling is such a great neurological muscle integration. A lot of times I get people back on the ground starting to crawl again. There's a great book called Original Strength that really talks about that. And even kids that have skipped the crawling phase, they go from the bum scooching to the walking right away, they tend to have problems later in life because they didn't actually do that neurological integration. Sometimes we get people back to rolling, right? Just basics. Try rolling on the ground without using your arms and see if you can do that. A lot of people have lost the ability to.
Hold on, I'll go
And
check right
so,
now. Yeah, but getting up without using your hands to a standing position is something you lose fairly quickly along the way. I think one of the points that is really important for people to hear is, the biggest challenge we have as we age is injury. It is, you may be in great shape, but you fall, you tear a ligament, you break a bone, and it ends you up in bed rest and sarcopenia, and it is difficult to recover after that. And so minimizing injury is super important, and that comes from flexibility. It comes from, like you said, just coordination. And like I say, we'll talk about this later, not doing stupid things.
and not doing stupid things. Yeah. And one of the things I think that people also confuse sometimes is flexibility versus stability. And this was a great example of I took a functional movement screen course a number of years ago, and there was a physiotherapist there that could not bring his hand up his back. right? He couldn't touch his shoulder blades if he put his hand behind his back and lifted it up. And he thought it was a flexibility problem. So he spent, years doing towel stretches and trying to get him more flexible. With assessment, it turned out it was a stability problem. And he actually wasn't, his brain was not stabilizing his shoulder blade before he could move his arm. And once we taught about 5 minutes of teaching his brain to stabilize, he had full range of motion again. So, sometimes it's surprising. And so that movement patterns are really important.
Hey everyone, I want to take a quick break from this episode to tell you about a health product that I love and that I use every day. In fact, I use it twice a day. It's Seed's DS-01 Daily Synbiotic. Hopefully by now you understand that your microbiome and your gut health are one of the most important modifiable parts of your health. Your gut microbiome is connected to everything, your brain health, your cardiac health, your metabolic health. So the question is, what are you doing to optimize your gut? Let me take a moment to tell you about what I'm doing. Every day, I take 2 capsules of Seed's DS-01 Daily Synbiotic. It's a 2-in-1 probiotic and prebiotic formulation that supports digestive health, gut health, skin health, heart health, and more. It contains 24 clinically and scientifically proven probiotic strains that are delivered in a patented capsule that actually protects the contents from your stomach acid and ensures that 100% of it is survivable, reaching your colon. Now, if you want to try Seed's DS-01 Daily Synbiotic for yourself, you can get 25% off your first month's supply by using the code PETER25 at checkout. Just go to seed.com/moonshots and enter the code PETER25 at checkout. That's seed.com/moonshots and use the code PETER25 to get your 25% off the first month of Seed's Daily Synbiotic. Trust me, your gut will thank you. All right, let's go back to the episode.
Anything else on exercise that you want to? Let's talk about one last element here, which is if you're trying to build muscle mass. Let's talk about the supplements or what you recommend for building muscle mass, right? So we've talked about protein, talked about 0.8 to 1 gram per body pound weight. So I'm 150 pounds, I'm taking 150 grams. I'll do that with a Nutri-11 shake and then a Kachava shake and then some fish and then some chicken. And I attack my protein. I don't eat red meat for a number of reasons. We can not talk about that right now, but what are the other elements? Creatine, other supplements, protein, amino acids. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, so definitely, like we talked about, get enough protein. Your muscles are made of protein. There's other things you can do, like creatine. Creatine is an energy source for your muscles. Your body is going to make creatine because it's so important. But when it makes creatine, it uses up a lot of capacity. So we've probably all heard of methylation, right? The ability to add methyl groups to a lot of different things in our body, including DNA, which controls DNA expression. We use methylation to make neurotransmitters, to make new DNA and RNA and new cells, essentially. And so we also need methylation to make creatine. And when your body, if you're working out a lot, you are going to be using up quite a bit of creatine. And so it's fine, your body will make it, but then it uses up from other areas where you need that methylation capacity. And so taking the creatine supplies that, very, very safe. And it frees it up for your body to do other things with the methylation.
How much creatine should you take in terms of
around
milligrams per day?
5 grams or so.
5 grams, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And again, creatine is really easy to get. It's kind of flavorless. You can add it to any shake, put it in water. One of the easiest things you can take.
Great.
So
What else?
Definitely want to do that. Yeah, looking at, you could do free-form amino acids if you want, but I think if you eat enough protein, you're probably good with that. And then the other things to support your mitochondria, that will help you build muscle and help you exercise more as well. And your mitochondria need a lot of support. They need your B vitamins, you need your antioxidants, coenzyme Q10, magnesium is a big one. A lot of us are magnesium deficient. If we get that tightness in our muscles, if you get a tightness in your neck or tightness, that's often you're not having enough magnesium, because calcium helps your muscles contract and magnesium helps them relax. And so I'd say 85% of us are deficient in magnesium, and we need it every day. And the more stress we're under, the more we need it.
And we'll talk
Mhm.
about peptides when we get to meds and supplements and peptides
Yeah,
a little bit later. But there are some peptides that can support muscle growth as well. How
there
about
are.
testosterone for men who are?
Yeah, so definitely keeping your hormones in an optimal range. As we get older, testosterone for men, estrogen, progesterone for women, I think are really low-hanging fruit when it comes to longevity. Both of them support muscle mass, bone mass, and brain health, cardiovascular health. So that's really a no-brainer.
Helen, thank you for this conversation on diet and exercise. When we get together next, we'll jump into sleep, what we call our annual Found Upload. How do you image and diagnose yourself? What can you know about what's going on in your body? We'll dive into meds and supplements. We'll dive into mindset, and then we'll talk about what's different for women's health as well, which is an important subject because um, uh, for way too long, women have not had the differential attention, and it's been way too male oriented. But that is changing and changing rapidly. Thank you for your brilliance. Thank you for being one of the most extraordinary medical leaders in my life. And those of you who are interested in learning more, you can get a free copy of my longevity practices if you go to diamandis.com/longevity. You can also get a daily AI email. There's an AI I built that searches the world for the latest longevity breakthroughs. And if you go to longevityinsider.org, you can sign up for free. You get, sort of what are the latest breakthroughs occurring today, because it's just an amazing period. And then please check out fountainlife.com.
Awesome.
Awesome, Helen. Take care, my friend.
Thank you, Peter. Such fun. Really
Talk to you
enjoyed
soon.
this. Bye.
Bye. I want to take a moment to tell you about Abundance 360, my year-round leadership mastermind for people who want to go big, create wealth, and impact the world. It's also Singularity University's highest level program. A key focus of Abundance 360 is helping my members develop their massive transformative purpose, or MTP, and also to define and execute on their moonshots. You're listening to the Moonshot podcast, so the question is, do you have an MTP? Do you have your own moonshot? For example, my massive transformative purpose, my MTP, is to inspire and guide entrepreneurs just like you to help you create a hopeful, compelling, and abundant future for humanity. My MTP drives everything I do. It guides me, it inspires me. My books, my companies, the XPRIZes we launch, it's all born out of that MTP. As an entrepreneur, you need to have an MTP. It's your highest level aspiration. It connects your emotional drive with the moonshots you take on. Your MTP drives the direction of your moonshot. It allows you to pursue your grandest dreams. It fuels you to go 10x bigger and impact the world. So the question is, where do you go to discover your MTP, to hone your moonshot? Join me at Abundance 360. It's a global community of world changers, entrepreneurs, investors, philanthropists, all of whom have an MTP and a moonshot. We support each other in making a dent in the universe to positively uplift humanity. Our mission at A360 is to give you the tools, the network, and the inspiration to go big, again, to create wealth and to uplift humanity. If hearing this has you thinking, I want to be part of that, I need someone to help support my MTP and moonshot, then consider joining us. Submit your application at a360.com. That's a360.com. See you there. Now back to our podcast.